The U.S. government ran the biggest December budget deficit in history last month. The December budget shortfall came in at $143.6 billion. That compares with a $13.3 billion deficit in December 2019. Spending continues to drive the ballooning budget deficits. Receipts were actually up 3% year-on-year in December, but outlays exploded by 40% year-on-year. Uncle Sam spent for $190 billion in a single month. Just 3 months into fiscal 2021, the federal government has already blown through over $1.3 trillion. In the first quarter of fiscal 2021, the U.S. government ran a deficit of over $500 billion. In other words, in a mere 3 months, Uncle Sam has pushed the deficit over halfway to $1 trillion. As of January 12th, the national debt stood at $27.69 trillion. According to the National Debt Clock, the debt-to-GDP ratio stands at 130.57%. Despite the lack of concern in the mainstream, debt has consequences. Studies have shown that a debt-to-GDP ratio of over 90% retards economic growth by about 30%. Most people shrug off these massive deficits, reasoning that they are simply a product of the economic problems caused by the pandemic. But the pandemic has papered over an ugly truth. The federal government was getting into near-record deficit territory well before COVID-19 arrived on the scene. The government's response to the pandemic put the borrowing and spending on hyperdrive, and there is no sign that it will end anytime soon. President-elect Joe Biden is expected to unveil another stimulus bill in the trillions. With Democrats controlling Congress and the White House, it seems likely that the spending pace will increase in 2021, not slow down. Big deficits have another pernicious effect on the economy. They drive inflation. The Federal Reserve makes all of this borrowing and spending possible by backstopping the bond market and monetizing the debt. The central bank buys U.S. treasuries on the open market with money created out of thin air. This creates artificial demand for bonds and keeps interest rates low. All of this new money gets injected into the economy, driving inflation higher. Even with the incredible amount of quantitative easing the Fed is engaged in today, many analysts expect another $3 trillion deficit in 2021. According to Bank of America analysis, the Fed will need to double QE in 2021 just to keep up with the government's projected debt issuance. The more money the Fed creates, the more inflationary pressure mounts. But as long as the federal government continues to borrow and spend, the Fed can't stop monetizing the debt. If it does, interest rates will spike. That's a non-starter given the piles of debt in the economy. Not just government, but also corporate and consumer debt. Rising inflation pushes interest rates up, forcing the Fed to continue its inflationary monetary policy to hold rates down. In effect, this is a massive tax on the American people. Instead of taking money directly from you, the Fed steals the purchasing power of your money in a stealthy inflation tax. In a nutshell, debt is neither free nor is it irrelevant. Borrowed money has to be paid back. It will be paid back, but not the way you expect. Our national currency has been weaponized. It has been weaponized against the holders of the currency. I will continue to beat the drum until more people wake up to the reality that our government debt is not sustainable. The budget deficits are guaranteed to grow, and hopefully you are not still saving in paper only. Buy something real. Hold an asset that preserves your purchasing power against the weaponization of your currency. Buy canned goods, dry foods, metals, an extra pair of tires for your car. Anything that can't be created out of thin air will serve you well in the future. Worst case scenario, it can help someone else if you ever needed to use that item for bartering. Thanks for watching this news update. Share your thoughts on the information shared and stay tuned for more stats and facts as to what's happening in the economy.